How'd you get into music?
Ah, well, if I, the problem is that I'm to remember everything now. You pulled that one on me. So I think, yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, probably, if you're talking about playing music, I was forced to play guitar, classical guitar. I started from when I was about 7, 8, I think. I did that for about several years, but I wasn't really into playing the guitar. Um, it was kind of like forced, as your parents do on their kids, they're kind of forced to, like get them into something. Uh, and then I think like must have been when I was around 10 or 11, 9, 10, 11. There was there was this, the two-tone craze with the specials, madness, and that must have been in the late 70s, I imagine. Um, and everyone was into that. No, as kids, it was like really, like we're talking about for us, it's primary school. For you, elementary school. Is that
Yeah.
right? In America, you say elementary school, like
Yes, yes,
the
yes.
first. Yeah. So for us in primary school, up to 11. So you got, we're all like 10, 9, 10, 11 into like the specials, all that kind of those bands like the Beat, Madness, Selector, of course. And I remember we were in Oxford Street in London, and I remember buying the first the specials first album and the Selector first album. Those two albums, I got them, um, and just listening to them, you know, uh, constantly, constantly. No, because then we're talking about a period there where, like, all that kind of two tone ska influence stuff. We're talking about this is like chart music. No, this you would hear them in the top, they're like in the top 10. There a lot of these songs. And then later, probably in my teens, I started getting into more of the punk stuff. Obviously, I think the gateway was like probably the Sex Pistols or something like that. Obviously, after the event, no. But actually, um, the first kind of like I was into like all the American stuff, like the Kennedys, Bad Brains, Black Flag, those type of bands. The stuff wasn't that easy to get hold of in those days. No, so like we had what was that thing? Compilations. Like I think there was that Let Them Eat Jelly Beans compilation that I think was on Alternative Tentacle. So you kind of like got it because this is like way before the internet or social media or anything like that. So you just had to like word of mouth for your friends and stuff. So there was a good. I mean, there was a when I say our scene was like three or four people in our school that were probably into this type of music, And then later, I abandoned the classical guitar and started with the electric. I asked for electric guitar, and with friends, we started playing, forming bands with at school. This is the secondary school stuff. For you, it's high school. Just playing things, but we never played covers or anything. I remember we always used to write our own material because we couldn't play covers. Never been able to do it. It was just that it was easier just to play our stuff, things that we used to write. And then, later you start going through bands. First, you start obviously like most people, you start off with bands, start off in a band with friends. And then, like you go through those years where people start moving, going off to university, different places, you start going off in separate ways. And then you kind of meet other people to play with. Um, and actually, I think, what was it after? I used to play in this band called The Shout. It's really weird if you think that from King Prawn, especially with some of the other bands that I've played with, that were, yeah, that was kind of like let's say the first serious band I mean, that used to actually go out gigging places. But I used to play guitar. I didn't sing in those days. I used to play guitar. Um, and then actually, Leeson is not with us anymore, unfortunately. He went on to play with the Popes. I don't know, something like with Shane McGowan and that kind of stuff, because it was all this. And they were a band called, they became Neck, or he became Neck, which was like a kind of Irish band playing kind of like a traditional Irish music. So, like, yeah, there's this really strange um, connections between all these bands, And then I think and then in the mid 90s, Roger, the guitarist of King Prawn, we've been friends for a long time. We decided to form this. We've been in in bands before. And then we decided to form this, I think around, like you say, the mid 90s, maybe it was even the early 90s then. Decided to form a band that went through various stages and then until it became King Prawn with the original lineup. I think we started from like mid 90s until about 2003, I think it was. That then we split up. Uh, and then we got back together, I think in 2000, about 10 years later, in 2013, 14, 15, something like that, to do some shows, but without the original bass player. And then the band just expanded. Now we were originally four piece, and then we were five piece with a cornet player, and now we're seven piece with an additional trombonist and keyboards. And the guy Nick who plays keyboards also plays trumpet into his present form now. I think from about 2015, let's say. Yeah, you're asking the wrong person about these things. My memory's terrible. I'm just like grabbing things in the air, like yeah.
Word.
And then yeah, until
while you still try to maintain the locks on the door, but there's also self-preservation. When you run the tentacles, you have it for the enter. When you run the tentacles, you have it for the enter. When you run the tentacles, you have it for the enter. When you run the tentacles, you have.
Let's take it back a minute. Like so
yeah,
like you said, 95 was
yeah,
around the time you started putting out music. You were gigging before
yeah, I
that.
think so. Yeah,
But
yeah.
which came first, that Poison in the Air EP or First Offense?
No, Poison in the Air. That was the first. Yeah, that was the first single that we did with a label at the time called Words of Warning. Um, and I think that was just a single, wasn't on any albums or anything originally. I think, but I think that later maybe they put it on. They put it on the end of First Offense or something. I don't know. As an additional track, is that right? I'm not sure.
You are correct.
Yeah, because
The
yeah, because
deluxe
yeah,
edition.
we lost control of those first two albums. we don't- we yeah. So yeah. So Poison in the Air was the first thing, and actually with that we managed to get our first tour just from that single because that was quite well received in the. And I remember, yeah, we've got our first like tours going out to Europe. I think we went out to Europe in about 96, maybe 96 or 97, like 3 week tour around Europe. Uh, um, and then I think then we did First Offense was the first album that we did. And if I'm not sure, if I remember well, I think Ace from Skunk Anansie produced it. Um, and I think we recorded that in no time. It was it was like recorded in 48 hours and mixed in 48 hours. And it sounds like it as well. Yeah, it was everything was really rushed. I mean, I remember we didn't have much time to do it, but we kind of knew. I mean, we did all the songs were written and we'd gigged them to death, before that. So it's just a question of going in there, laying it down, and getting it done as quick as possible for the budget. Probably wasn't. It was just a couple of $100 maybe, something like that in those days.
Word. Uh, hourly rates are fucking. They build up real quick.
Yeah. But those days, I mean, but we were in quite. I mean, we were in a decent studio. No, we were in a decent studio with engineer and stuff like that. I mean, like nowadays, we could do it ourselves, no problem, no. Spend more time and get something, but it kind of captures how it was. It does sound. When I listen back to it, it does sound like low budget, rushed. It sounds very rushed, but I kind of it has that impetus, which is it captures that moment, I guess.
Word. I really dug it.
Yeah.
It does have more of a
It's
raw
raw.
sound than
Yeah, it is raw. It is raw. There aren't any overdub. Well, there aren't many overdubs. It's just drums, bass, guitar, and vocals basically. I think on that album.
Yeah. I thought it turned out pretty good. And
I'm not that punk, no, I'm not your punk. I'm not that punk, no, I'm not. I'm not, oh, I'm not that punk, no, I'm not your punk. I'm not that punk, no, I'm not. I'm not,
right. But yeah, I love that first album. Tell me a bit about Fried in London. That came out in '98. I guess assuming after you got back from the second tour, that first tour. You started
Yeah, I
to,
mean, no, but in those days we were playing all the time. I think, close to probably more than 200 shows a year. We were constantly playing in that period. And I think that was I can't remember who it came out on, but I remember we recorded it at Southern Studios, which was Southern Studios was the place where it was um well, let's say its claim to fame, I guess, is I mean, there's lots of claims to fame, but one of them is that it was John Loder, who was the guy who did Crass, did all the Crass records. So they had I don't know if it was a record label or distribution. I know they were more of a distribute. I know them more of as a distribution, but probably was a record label as well. And we went to their studios and we recorded there. But again, it was still quite rushed. Maybe instead of having 4 days, we had a week to do it or something like that. Probably it was like, three or 4 days for tracking and like 3 or 4 days for mixing, when we went and did that. But again, like I said, that all those songs were kind of written before, as far as I can remember, and a lot of them we were playing live, so we just went and did it. And I think that one, I think we had brass. There was a cornet player. Maybe we had a couple of other guys come in as well, additional guys that came in. Oh yeah, my friend Alex, he came and played cornet, had trumpet with Nelly. Nelly is our cornet player full time. But we had a couple of guys that came in to expand the sound. I'm not sure if there's keyboards on that, but yeah, it was again another kind of a rush job. But
well,
the cover's really good on that.
yeah,
The,
yeah.
the the front cover, the artwork is really good in that album.
Um, I noticed you said "Dude from Crest." Is that why the single that came out had big A little A on it?
Yeah, that was. I think the single might have been wasn't because uh, I'm not sure if it's not your punk was that single was done before. I think because I think the single version and the album version are different. I think they're not the same. It's not the same recording, is what I'm saying. So, uh, and yeah, I don't know if there was a connection because no, because there wouldn't have been any connection to Crass because when we would have recorded that single first, we wouldn't have known that we were going there to to record. It was just coincidence. Yeah, I think yeah
Well,
because I think that because I think we did Big A Little A and it was a collaboration with a hip hop uh, crew, let's say. Um, and yeah, they did all the music because we don't know anything about sampling or anything like that. So yeah.
I, I was just curious because, like you said, that was the single came out. You said right before the album. You said you recorded it.
Yeah, yeah. The single came out, but it was a different. It wasn't connected to the album. I don't think. I'm not sure actually because I can't remember. I think it's a different recording. I haven't listened to it for a long time, but I think it's actually a different recording. But yeah.
Word, word. Uh, Surrender for the to the blender. Let's talk
Surrender
about
to the Blender. Yeah, that's getting
two,
more. Well, I can
2000. Yeah,
remember bits about that. Yeah.
tell me about that one.
Surrender to the Blender. Yeah, I think that was on. So we actually had quite a big budget for that because we were signed to we managed to get a deal with Spitfire, which is I mean none of these labels exist anymore, which was part of Entertain. I don't know, but now it's Entertainment One, which is a big American company actually. I think they're more Eagle Rock. I think they do like films and stuff like that. So it was like a kind of subsidiary. There was a guy that was there that was a big fan of the band, and we were kind of a bit out. I mean, I don't. I think once they gave us the money and got the recording, they didn't really know what to do with us because a lot of their catalog was like, Alice Cooper and kind of like traditional, sort of more, um, I'd say it's stuff that's easier to market. So they didn't really know what to do with us. So we had quite a good, yeah. I think we had a couple of weeks in a really good studio and everything. And we used a lot of additional musicians, like we had strings on there, so we expanded our sound quite a bit on that. I know we got strings, keyboards, or a bigger brass. The brass section is just getting bigger and bigger, so more brass and lots of overdubs, and there's more time to do that. But the problem was that it's like it was um, they didn't know how to. I think they didn't really know what to do with us. And then I think it was a question of like, then the label got bought by another label, and then they said, okay, what do we do with this? That it's the usual story that the guy who really likes you and who's behind you, basically by the time the album's coming out, has left. And so the new people just say, okay, well, what do we do with this? That was the thing. But that was that. I think that we were quite happy with that album in general. We had you could tell from the production that we had time on that.
Word. It turned out wonderful.
Oh, thank you. And now, and I think that this album now, again, it's another album that we don't have. So we lost the first, for us, we lost the first three albums. We don't have any control over them. So that was another one we lost. And I think it's kind of, we tried to inquire about getting it back and stuff, that one, but it's impossible. It's like, it's owned by someone in America, like a big, I think it's Entertainment One or something, like I said before. And it's impossible to contact them. It's just going around in a circle. And so, unfortunately, But I think one of us has the actual original recordings for that somewhere. So you never know what could happen in the future. Yeah. So you never know what could happen in the future. Yeah.
Have you thought about pulling re-recording it?
Yeah, but the time of having to learn those songs again, I might as well just go and do something new. Like we're not so precious about these things. It's kind of done now. Do you know what I mean? It's just get it over. I mean, like, let's just move on to the next thing. No, it's always been an idea. I thought that maybe we could go back and revisit it and stuff. Maybe, but we've got new material, so that would have to take priority.
You could pull a Cardiacs, learn all the songs, play a big ass long live show with just all of those, and then release that.
That's a good idea. Yeah,
because let's see, the Cardiacs. I don't know if you're familiar with Cardiacs.
We played with them. We played with the Cardiacs.
Seriously?
Back in the day. Yeah, back in the day. I'm sure we played with them. Yeah. At the garage, I remember. We played one show with them in London.
That's one of that's the things they released, is they had all these recordings from the 70s that all sounded like shit, and instead of putting out a new album, they just relearned all those songs and then played them live at the garage and released it as the garage special concert, and it was a 2-disc series that has all of the old tracks on it, and it way better recordings of them. They did a great job live.
Yeah, there are a few bands that have done that, even like major artists. I don't know, Taylor Swift didn't she? She re-recorded the early stuff to get because she'd lost them basically. But
there was a band called Polka Dot or Dog Fashion Disco that got into such a fucking a fight with their label that was refusing to post their stuff up on Spotify and fucking and YouTube and iTunes and all that shit, so you couldn't listen to the band online anywhere, and they're like, we need our music online, and they're like, fuck you, and so they just re-recorded every one of their old albums.
Well, as they should in that case, in a situation like that, probably we would do the same. But like I said, we got we're the effort to learn those old songs is it makes more sense just to go and do new stuff, really.
Word.
We wanna smoke some shit. Marijuana's the real heal. We gotta smoke some shit. We wanna smoke some shit. We got to smoke some shit. Marijuana's the real heal. We gotta smoke some shit.
But let's move on to Got the Thirst from
Yeah.
2003.
Okay, so that was actually that's the one. Yeah, we finally heard something that we've done, but that was self-financed. So yeah, so we self-financed that, and we went to record actually in the same place where we recorded the first two albums. I can't remember what the studio was called. It doesn't exist anymore. Um, and yeah, I think was Ace there? I can't remember. I think Ace might have been involved from Skunk and Nancy. He might have been involved again. I think he was. And another guy called Roger Tibbett, who'd done some other stuff. So yeah, we went to a really nice studio with a big budget. Well, big for us. And so I don't know maybe because we were financing it this time, we kind of paid a bit more attention to what we were doing. So, and so yeah, and again, the songs were. I think most of the songs were it's, as ever is the case. All our songs we don't have because we don't have a lot of time. So all our songs are written before. Everything is sorted out before. Maybe a couple of songs on there. Maybe we finalized in the studio, but otherwise everything had been gigged and played before. So it's just a question of going in there and getting a good performance and a decent recording. Um, but that was yeah in 2003. So like in the earlier days I didn't actually say this, but I should have mentioned this because this was like the main thing when we first started. There wasn't really a scene for what we were doing. Live music was dead. No one were people weren't. Kids weren't going to shows. They were going to raves. You know. Um, and it was so when in 2003 after yeah in the early 2000s it really changed. We saw other bands that were similar along the same sort of like but not we weren't playing exactly the same type of music, but there was a scene developing, and I think probably after Nirvana stuff like that, it became and Rage Against the Machine, of course. It became young kids started to get into rock, started to go to shows because before, no, it was dying. Like unless you're like if you're like a new band or a fresh band, it was difficult to get people to come to your shows. Everyone was like into rave, no, like and that was the scene. But then it started to change. And we noticed that we were playing bigger shows. There were like lots of like all these kids were suddenly appearing at the gigs, and we were playing a lot with some of the American bands like Less Than Jake, Real Big Fish. I think we played even with Goldfinger, 88 Fingers Louie. These kind of I don't know, are they Fat Wreck bands? Something like that.
Some of them are. Some of them are.
Some of
Yeah.
them are Good Riddance maybe as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some
Yeah.
of these bands, and so like it was like these kids were into those American bands, like especially like I say, like less than Jake. I mean, I didn't know who they were because I wasn't really into that following that scene, but there was like a whole audience that we didn't know even existed that suddenly just appeared, you know. And so yeah, it was a good moment there. We were playing with a lot of other bands, British bands, I should say, that were like Cap Down. Do you know them?
Oh
Cap
yeah.
Down,
Yeah.
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 Yeah, so we used to often we played with them, but they were like, popular. I mean, if they were going now, they would be massive. If you think of what's happening now, that kind of hardcore thing with like Turnstile and stuff like that, you know, they would be like it's just the timing of these things, as we were a bit we've always been out of sync with everything that's going on, really. But that's just the way, and so yeah, in 2000, I think we released that album. We did a few tours, and then I think we decided after about a year. I'm not sure when that album came out actually, but I think about 6 months, 8 months after, we decided to call it a day. Um, and we managed to get our money back. So that was why. So yeah, so it was. Um, yeah, we basically decided to call it a day for the band in around 2003. I think we did the first show the last show was actually in the Arctic Circle in Tromsø. So we played this festival. I can't remember what it was called. Something like Fuck the North Pole or something like this. I don't know if it's still going anymore. And then that was our last show. And then after that, well, I mean, we didn't know it was our last show, but we did that, and then we decided to call it a day. And then and then we said, oh, okay, it's a bit of a shame that for the people who supported the band, that followed the band, not to give a sending off, let's say. So we decided to do, I think, at the end of 2003, I don't know, maybe just before Christmas, sometime in the winter or autumn, we decided to do our own show. Quite a big show at the Forum. That's where you could see the videos. There's a video of that on YouTube, and maybe you've seen it. So you're nodding your head,
Yeah,
grinning.
yeah. Live at the Forum. It's listed on your Discogs on the as a video release. Yeah.
Yeah. It was a video release, exactly. Yeah. So we recorded that, and that was the last show of the original lineup, let's say.
Word.
Can't tell the difference between my TV, internet, or me. Who is that? Who is this? Who said that? America's next, gone celebrity. And I'm always patient between blinding lights and the deafening sound. And I can't make out the words, I make a match up with their mouths. Too many ideas buzzing round inside my brain, living the history of now. And I'm feeling like there's nothing left that I can really explain. Living the history of now.
Word. And then in that little hiatus, which 10-year hiatus,
Yeah.
you joined the Asian Dub Foundation for a little while.
Yeah, I did. I think I was in there for about 5 years. I did 2 albums with them. So I moved to Italy. So I'm in Italy now, as you can see. I was sitting outside. So Steve from ADF, he called me and got in contact and said if I would be interested in doing a couple of songs. I said, okay. So I did a couple of songs with them. I think they were demoed. And then later he said that they were looking for another singer. Would I be interested in joining? I said, okay, why not? And so yeah, and then I went and had to learn. It was a different thing actually. It was completely different because it's not, like I said before, I can't play other people's songs. I can't do like karaoke. I'm a singer, but I can't do karaoke. I mean, we're okay doing our own thing, but like if you have to play other people's things, music, it's difficult. So this was quite a challenge for me, and so yeah, I took it as a challenge, and it was another level. I mean, like when you go and play. I mean, the first show I think I did with them was like. Was in Singapore, I think it was. I had to go out to play in Singapore in some festivals, like 10,000, 15,000 people. You got 1 week to learn their songs, and like all the lyrics, is kind of like rhymes and stuff. So it's like pages and pages of lyrics. It's like, oh shit! Like I didn't realize I had to study. I didn't want to study anything that's going back to that. But yeah, but like when you're thrown into it. It is good. It is. I really like the challenge of, afterwards saying, yeah, when you do it and it's like, yeah, I did that. Something that was, I didn't think I could do it. I was like really worried, really, shitting myself about it, but I managed to do it. That is the challenge. That's a really good feeling, for you. So yeah. And so, yeah, I stayed with them for, I think about 5 years.
This day is done. I'm gonna rise again tomorrow with a brighter sun. This day is done. You gotta move with it, don't stop, jump up and then you gotta groove with it. When you're hanging round, you gotta ride with it. When they try to shoot you down.
With them for I think about 5 years. In the meantime, though, with King Prawn, we were getting offers come will you reform for this festival? This festival wants you, but we never sort of like went for it. And then I don't know why. Maybe after about 10 years, we said, okay. 3 of us said, why not? Okay, so all of us apart from the original bass player. He said he wasn't up for doing it. We said, okay. And he said, okay, you can go ahead and do it without me. I said, okay. So we then got a new bass player. We got another keyboard player, well, a keyboard player, not another brass player. And we expanded the band to a 7-piece full of sound. And the idea was, okay, let's go and do these shows and maybe we can try to do one album, which was fabulous. I can't even remember the name of it. That's how terrible my memory is. The the fabulous
Fabulous
news
new
that was
sound of.
that's it. Then fabulous new sound of yeah, easy to remember. Huh? And so yeah,
You did do you did release a couple songs in 2013, Done Days and Solemn Man.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah. So we, just to, I think we had to do something big just to coincide with the shows that we were doing. And so, yeah, so they were the first two. I think that those two are actually on the album, but they're different. Again, they're different versions. They were different versions. So yeah, like I said, we released those two. I think they were vinyl, if I'm not mistaken. Vinyl versions, yeah.
Yes,
They're
yes.
on yeah, yeah, that was it. Yeah, so that basically was like a promo. There were promos to coincide with the shows that we were playing.
Word.
Masquerading to hide ourselves, pretending we're not alone. When everything turns into a game, all games and hearts will be done.
Tiff.
Word. Word. You did release a couple things in 2020. Yeah, you had a Raucous and them
Anth
and
Anthem,
them.
Anthem, and them, Anthem, yeah, yeah, yeah. So just to get, yeah, like I said, probably when we go and play, it's kind of weird because like in the back in the day, you need when you go out and play, you need to have some kind of like promo, some product. It's the music industry has completely changed now to how it was in the past. So I think some of us are still playing catch up to how it is now. Like it's like it's like in that period or even now it's like, oh, what do we do? There's all these people. You go and there's all these people giving you the advice about how what you have to do and stuff like that. But I think that um some of us were still in that mindset of like having some promo. But it's also nice for us also to keep writing, though. So we just like as we're touring, okay, let's knock something out. Well, it's not that sounds a bit casual, but yeah, let's get something done. We're writing songs, and that, like I said, but we it's not our job. We've all got like jobs or family, so trying to balance everything to catch a moment to do things here and there. Yeah, and so. In this case, it was just a question of like, let's just get something out there to keep it ticking over. I
Word.
think.
Here's what you already know. Let it set you free.
And you guys have released a couple new singles, which are fucking awesome, right?
Cheers. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So something new is about
Yes.
to come out. Tell me about that. What's
Yeah,
going
well,
on?
something new is about to come out. Something new is coming out. Something new has just come out. So basically, we recorded a four-track EP, and what we're doing is that we're releasing these once a month, and then I think we're going to release it as a vinyl. So it's coming out as vinyl. And so we recorded these four tracks last year. And then a lot of toing and throwing of, it's you playing a band and like most people are like, oh yeah, we don't like this, mixes, mastering, blah, blah, blah. It's just go back in the loop. Eventually, after about 8 months of this, we have to say, okay, that's enough, stop. That's enough. We have to decide this is the best we're going to get it done. This is the best we're going to get. So yeah, so we released in last month no, I want to say last month in January we released Propaganda was the first let's say single, let's say, and then a few weeks ago, a couple of weeks ago in February, we released Take Me Back was the next one. Then probably at the end of this month, I think in a couple of weeks, probably at the end of this month, uh, we have another single coming out. It's Lose My Senses. Okay. And then I think the next month will be the last one called You Fake. And these will all be released on vinyl on Lost Property Records. So
that's
and
cool.
yeah, and it all got fantastic artwork by an old friend of mine called Bennett Spencer. Did all the paintings. Um, yeah, was actually someone that I've known for a really really long time. A very very old friend. That he's an excellent artist. Excellent.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Um,